We've seen that Kotlin has functions, Kotlin has classes. We can create instances of those classes, create objects which are instances of those classes. But similar to JavaScript, JavaScript actually doesn't have classes. We kind of invent classes to, especially those of us that come from C# and JavaScript, and it's Java and other languages that have classes. But JavaScript as such doesn't have the concept of classes. TypeScript does, not JavaScript. JavaScript has objects, and Kotlin has objects as well. We can actually create an object without it being an instance of a specific class. Let's see how. Basically what we can do is anywhere just say object, global, for instance, we're going to call it global, and create properties for this object. So I'll create a global property called pi. Now I can come to my main function and just access this. I can say print line global pi. There we go. It's as simple as that. And what I've just done is create a global object with a read-only property. Now, I'm not enticing you to create global objects, especially read-write. Global objects for read are okay, but I've created a global object. And I can access that from anywhere, as long as I include the package name. Now, one other thing to notice here is that this isn't just a global object. This is actually a singleton. Because if you think about it, in traditional Java, C#, etc., we have to implement this singleton pattern, which is basically we've got to create a class which only allows a single instance, right? So we have to kind of do this boilerplate code of create a private constructor and make sure that, it's only called once, etc. And with Kotlin, all I have to do is just declare an object and a name, and that's it. And I've basically implemented the singleton pattern with very, very little code. I can also have an object expression. So here, for instance, I can have a local object. I can say val local object, and then use the keyword object, and then say val pi equals 3.14159. And this is a local object, and it's an object expression. So I can now reference it doing local object pi. Okay? Much the same way as before. Now, one difference is that object declarations are initialized in a lazy way, and expressions are immediately initialized when they're used. And we'll see some usages of objects further on in this course. So to summarize some of the things we've seen with classes in this part, classes are first-class citizens in Kotlin. They provide expected functionality such as properties and functions, as we've seen. There are no fields in Kotlin. This is one peculiarity. There is the concept of the backing field, which we saw that we can use in getters and setters. We have access to this backing field, and we'll use this a little bit further on in the course and as well as in the advanced course to see some other usages for it. Data classes, by adding the data modifier, provide us this functionality of implementing all of the toString and get hash code and the copy function, etc., without us having to do that in a manual way each time with boilerplate code. Enums, you can create an instance, and they also allow behavior. And objects provide an easy way to create singletons and just access them without having to mess around with creating instances of them, etc.